The tragic fate that was bestowed upon the iconic trio of Anakin, Obi Wan and Ahsoka broke the hearts of Star Wars fans around the world. Their chemistry was unmatched, and as a trio, could defeat any enemy during the Clone War. But what if they teamed up their forces and started their own empire? Let's start the story during Revenge of the Sith. Anakin has turned, and Order 66 had occurred. Ahsoka's ship has just crash landed, with only her and Rex surviving. Out of panic, she contacts Obi Wan and asks him what the situation is. Why have the clones turned on the Jedi? She feels something isn't right in the Force, it's off balance, and she senses her master's involvement. Obi Wan tells her the truth about Anakin's betrayal and turn to the dark side. Ahsoka can't believe what she's hearing. Her master Anakin would never do this, and turn to the dark side. Obi Wan must be mistaken, but Kenobi tells her they must go to Mustafar to confront Anakin, as they're the only two who can save him. She agrees and heads there immediately. But Obi Wan arrives first and exits the ship as he watches Anakin choke Padme unconscious. He screams to let her go as he stands off against his former apprentice.
What are you doing, Anakin? This isn't you! Don't be foolish, Obi-Wan. This has always been me, and the Jedi pushed me to the tipping point. They never trusted me. They were holding me back, afraid of my power. The Jedi are your family, Anakin. Why?
And Anakin goes off at Kenobi, telling him his real family was on Tatooine, his mother whom the Jedi left to rot away. He tells Obi-Wan,
the Jedi follow a path of ignorance. You were taught to ignore everything you have ever felt. The loss of your master, the death of your lover, and all for what?
He knows he desires more in life, as he does, that he is more powerful as the Chancellor and can overthrow him.
Join me. Together we can destroy the Emperor and lead the galaxy down the correct path. Achieve what the Jedi could not.
As Obi-Wan stood there staring into the fire of Mustafar, his mind raced. He saw the conviction in Anakin's eyes, the sheer certainty in his belief that the Jedi had failed him. But had they? Obi-Wan spent years adhering to the strict code of the Order, believing in the selflessness they reached, in their sacrifice for the greater good. Yet what had it cost him? Qui-Gon and Satine's death, two of the most important people in his life. And now Anakin. He was taught to suppress his emotions, but now everything was coming to the surface as Anakin stood before him. He could feel the pull to join him and help defeat the true villain, the Emperor, who was pulling the strings the entire time. He looks up at Anakin.
And if we do this, there will be no more Sith. No Sith. No Jedi. Just us guiding the galaxy. I will join you, Anakin. Together we will set things right.
They grab Padme and start heading towards her ship as they send another fighter into the atmosphere. It clicks for Obi-Wan, who tells Anakin it must be Ahsoka. Anakin's delighted. Together he and Obi-Wan can bring her to their side. She exits the ship and stares at them both.
Masters, what's going on here?
I'm sorry, Ahsoka. It seems the plans have changed,
said Obi-Wan. Ahsoka takes a step back as she senses the events that have transpired.
What have you done?
We've chosen the correct path. Let me rephrase. The only path,
says Anakin.
No, that can't be. You were both always the ones trying to do the right thing.
Anakin stepped forward.
The Jedi were never the answer, Ahsoka. They've been blind, leading us in circles, serving a corrupt republic. They betrayed everything we stood for. Palpatine has been playing both sides all along.
What are you saying, Anakin? He's the Sith Lord? The Chancellor?
Anakin nodded.
Yes, and he's been manipulating the war, the council, all of it. But we can stop him, Ahsoka. We can destroy him and end the corruption. No more Sith, no more Jedi. Just us. Together.
Ahsoka turned to Obi-Wan at a loss for words.
Ahsoka, you've always been free-thinking, questioning things the Jedi never did. You left them because you saw their hypocrisy. This is our chance to fix the galaxy, to make things right. We need you, Ahsoka.
Anakin stepped closer. He tells his apprentice that the galaxy is on the brink of something new, that she must know in her heart that the old ways won't save it. But together, they can build something better, something that truly serves the people of the galaxy, not the Senate, not the Jedi.
You've already walked away from the Jedi path once. Join us now and help us shape the future.
The words swirl in her mind. She knew Anakin better than most. She knew he wasn't the type to turn away from his convictions. If they truly believed this was the only way, then maybe it was. Maybe they could do what the Jedi never could, and she trusted them both with her life.
Anakin, I'll always trust you. If this is the only way, I'll follow you.
Without wasting another moment, the trio hurried towards Padme's ship, and they lifted off Mustafar back to the capital Coruscant. As they entered the atmosphere, Anakin turned to his friends.
Palpatine will fall, and we will rebuild the galaxy in our image. We have to move quickly. Palpatine will sense what has happened soon enough.
They land and enter the Senate building, but what surprised them was the sound of lightsabers clashing, and Obi Wan told them that Yoda must have engaged Palpatine in a duel. Anakin tells Ahsoka to take Padme to the medical facility, as he and Obi Wan will deal with Yoda. They enter the Grand Hall and jump onto the center console, as they both stand beside Sidious opposite Yoda. The look on the Grandmaster's face was indescribable.
Kenobi, done what have you?
He's embraced the true nature of the Force. No, Master Jedi, you will die.
Sidious screams as the three jump towards Yoda. The Grandmaster defends for as long as he can, but he stands no chance against them. He manages to kick Sidious to the side, but Anakin grips him with the Force and squeezes him tight, as Obi-Wan throws his lightsaber towards the Grandmaster, ending his life. Anakin and Obi-Wan stand victorious, but Palpatine looks at them furious. He wanted to be the one to end Yoda, something he'd dreamed of his entire life, but he controls his frustration, because if Obi-Wan and Anakin turn on him now, he's not sure the outcome of the battle.
The end of the Jedi is at last. The Sith will rule the galaxy.
They all smile, but Ahsoka contacts Anakin, telling him that Padme had begun labor, and they must come now. Anakin looks at Palpatine in panic. The moment that Palpatine had promised was upon them.
My boy, go first. I will follow shortly after you. Together we will save Padme.
Before we dive back into the story, I have to share something incredible that just arrived this week. This stunning piece of Star Wars inspired art from Gallery 94. Check this out. It's a beautifully crafted Tatooine desert scene with subtle details like the twin suns that only true fans will notice. Seriously, this isn't just art, it's a tribute to the galaxy we love. The artist behind this masterpiece wanted something that his interior designer wife would proudly hang in their living room, and he nailed it. The canvas quality is exceptional, and it fits perfectly below my lightsaber display stand on our Star Wars themed wall. But here's the best part. Gallery 94 has an entire collection of breathtaking Star Wars landscapes. Whether you're into the lush forests of Endor, the icy plains of Hoth, the misty swamps of Dagobah, the sandy dunes of Tatooine, the cloud city of Bespin, and even the sunny shores of Scarif. They even offer 3-panel triptychs, which can make your favorite planets feel larger than life. And while their Black Friday sale has ended, you can still snag the same discount. Just use code FANTASY20 at checkout before the end of the year. This is the perfect gift for the Star Wars fan in your life, or even yourself to bring the galaxy home. They also have free shipping in the United States and Europe. Head over to Gallery 94 now, the first link in the description, and bring the galaxy home. You will not regret it. Alright, now let's get back to the video. Anakin and Obi-Wan rush off immediately, and Anakin tells Kenobi the plan, that as soon as Palpatine helps them, they will turn on him and take the Empire for themselves. They arrive at the hospital, and the medical droids tell Anakin that Padme has begun labor, and his fear starts to rise. Obi-Wan puts his hand on his shoulder.
Padme will not die tonight, Anakin. Together, the three of us can save her.
Your dreams will not become reality. I promise you, Master.
They get ready to use their combined power to save Padme, but she gives birth to the twins with 0 complications. They enter the room. Padme is still drowsy after the medication, but seeing her children and Anakin together gives her some joy, as the events that have transpired on Mustafar were somewhat suppressed. Anakin holds his 2 children with a smile on his face, looks at Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, who share the same feelings, but Anakin's face starts to turn sour. Padme's birth was smooth. That wasn't meant to happen. Was his dreams a lie? They couldn't be. The dreams of his mother all those years ago came true. The same should have happened now, and it all clicked for Anakin.
I didn't need Palpatine's help. Padme was never going to die. He knew about my dreams without me ever telling him. There's only one way that could be possible. He planted those dreams in your mind to deceive you. I've read of a dark side technique for solution that makes such things possible. We no longer need him.
They move swiftly through the corridors of Coruscant's Senate building as they reach Palpatine's office. The massive doors slid open, but to their surprise, the room was already lit with flashing sabers.
You return to me, Skywalker. I thought we had an understanding. But I sense your treachery.
But before they could step forward, two dark figures emerged from the shadows on either side of Palpatine, Barriss Offee and the Grand Inquisitor, who have both been promised power if they help Palpatine in this fight. Obi Wan and Ahsoka ignited their blades in response, and the entire room erupted into a clash of lightsabers. Anakin faced off against Palpatine. Anakin was fierce and relentless, whereas Palpatine was quick and cunning, as they swung their blades at lightning intensity. Palpatine cracked lightning at Anakin, attempting to catch him off guard, but Anakin stood firm and caught it with his blade. He maintained composure as Palpatine attempted to reinforce his lightning to take out Anakin, but he made one mistake and focused too much on Anakin and was blind to his surroundings, as the Master Obi Wan Kenobi, who'd made easy work of the Grand Inquisitor, darted at Palpatine, severing his hands from his wrists and stopping his lightning. Anakin rushed forward and thrust his blade through Palpatine, who slumped to the ground lifeless. They turned to look at Ahsoka, who's just won her duel, and they know the Empire is theirs. Hours later, the Senate was filled with murmurs and confusion, as the senators waited to hear what had transpired. The death of Emperor Palpatine had been whispered throughout the city, but no one knew what to expect next. The doors to the Senate chamber opened, and Anakin, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka entered. Their presence commanded the attention of everyone in the room. The trio stepped forward to the center of the chamber, where Palpatine once stood.
Palpatine is dead. The Sith and Jedi are no more.
Gasps filled the room, but Anakin continues, unwavered.
But from this moment forward, we will rebuild the galaxy as an empire of balance.
Obi-Wan stepped forward. He was well known to the Senate as an upstanding and respectable Jedi.
We will ensure peace and order to the galaxy. Must be compliant. The Senate will exist to carry out. Failure to do this will result.
The Senate stayed silent as they were dismissed, but they knew there was nothing they could do. Anakin swiftly took over the command of the clones, since he was directly written into the Order 66's code as to be the one spared by the Order, and used this for the three of them to gain control over the Empire. Meanwhile, Anakin met up with Padme again, but now off all her medication. Isn't happy with Anakin. She remembers the events that transpired on Mustafar, and just watched the recording from the Senate. She can't believe her husband would do such a thing, take over the Empire, and control the galaxy with brute force. Anakin left Padme alone, but knew in time she would come around. Years passed, as Anakin, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka's empire established complete control over the galaxy. They stomped all evidence of rebellion, and continued to hunt down and eliminate every surviving Jedi through the use of their Inquisitorius program. Together they discussed their opinions and ideals on the Force. Anakin had foregone complete darkness, as he realized Palpatine's lies of power and felt it would be foolish to do this, and decided to act with some light in him. This was encouraged by Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, but the two of them started to open up to using their emotions to fuel their power, and they essentially were Dark Jedi. They used their anger, hatred, and ambition to fuel their power when necessary, but also used the harmony and serenity of the Jedi when required. Padme eventually came around, and decided to join their cause, after she started to see the good they were doing for the galaxy, as well as a lot of convincing from Ahsoka. They set up their Inquisitorius program, which was essentially a band of Dark Jedi warriors. They were training to initially hunt down the Jedi, but were soon turned into political diplomats that had jurisdiction over various areas of the galaxy, with the job to maintain order and control. The clone army became the police of the galaxy, and they maintained close ties with Kamino to continue their production, with slight modification of their genetic code. Although their empire was harsh and stern, it created order in the galaxy, and even prosperity. Together they implemented many different policies and campaigns, One of the first policies introduced was the Galactic Opportunity Initiative. This policy aimed to ensure every civilian, regardless of species or background, had equal access to education, healthcare, and employment. Families no longer lived in fear of war or instability, as the Empire guaranteed security across every system. They outlawed slavery across the galaxy, liberating millions, and setting up rehabilitation programs to integrate former slaves into society with dignity and fairness. They recognized that corporations like the Trade Federation, Techno Union, and Commerce Guilds were responsible for much of the galaxy's inequities and suffering. The Empire implemented strict regulations on these major galactic industries. These corporations were no longer allowed to wield political power to maintain private armies as they had during the Republic. Instead, they were forced to adhere to the Galactic Corporate Charter, which introduced new guidelines ensuring ethical labor practices, fair wages, and environmental protection for the systems they operated in. The Empire maintained oversight on all trade routes, eliminating price gouging and monopolistic practices that had once bled smaller planets dry. One of the most remarkable achievements of the Empire was the implementation of the Universal Standard of Living Act. Every civilian was entitled to basic rights, including access to clean water, shelter, and healthcare. Years passed since the Empire's foundation, and together, Anakin and Padme raised their children, Luke and Leia, now growing into their teenage years, were bright, strong in the Force, and full of potential. Under the guidance of their father and the wisdom of their mother, they learned about the Force and the important tenets of leadership. Padme and Anakin would have 3 more children, naming them Qui-Gon, Shmi, and Corday. Anakin and Padme were extremely happy with their lives. They had a beautiful family and had created a peaceful galaxy in which everyone prospered. As the years went on, Ahsoka reunited with her old friend Lux, and their bond rekindled instantly. Older now, their reunion blossomed into something deeper, and not before long, they were married. Together they had a family of their own. Obi Wan, watching his friends start families of their own, couldn't help but be filled with regret as he thinks of his lost lover Satine, but he tries not to be burdened by his past and move forward, which he does as he falls in love with one of the Dark Jedi, a part of their order, and starts his own family. Under their rule, the galaxy has reached an unprecedented era of peace and prosperity, at the cost of some of the freedoms that the civilians could no longer have. The leaders, Anakin, Obi Wan, and Ahsoka, grew old together, as their bond was iron strong. There was never a hint of betrayal amongst them, and their families got on extremely well, with all of their children being extremely close. They watched each new generation come into existence, and were trained in the principles that had come before them. When the time came, they would finally pass away peacefully, knowing that the empire they had built would continue to flourish under the leadership of their children. The empire they had created would be ruled by one Skywalker, one Kenobi, and one Tano, with the mantle passed down to the eldest descendant of each family, regardless of gender, and the empire would remain strong for the rest of time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to watch What If Anakin Told Obi-Wan About Darth Plagueis the Wise, and What If Padme Saved Anakin on Mustafar. Don't forget to check out our Christmas sale over at Fantasy Sabers for 15% off. Continue to leave your ideas in the comments and let me know what you thought. Like and subscribe, and may the Force be with you.